Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to the Metal Command Show. Tony here with you, and this is the last video for the top albums of the year countdown, getting it down to the top 5. And I started off with 35 albums that I loved this year out of the couple hundred that were sent to me. And now we're back here with the top 5 albums of the year. I'm going to be talking about this. This is like the best of the best. These are the albums, this whole top 10 actually were the albums that really had a huge impact on me. But these top 5, man, they were just, it was really hard to not have them here. So with that being said, and again, if you disagree with my top 5, I get it. Music is subjective. I'm not going to hold it against anybody. I'd like to hear your comments about these albums. I'd love to hear your comments on what your top 5 releases might be. Leave that in the comment section. And if you like what you see and hear on this video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. A lot of great stuff coming. But anyway, top 5 releases of the year. Give it to me. Number 5 is Gravedigger with Symbol of Eternity. Folks, there is a review of this album on my channel. There is a recent interview with Chris Boltendahl of Gravedigger, and I gotta tell you, you know, the top 5 albums, 3 of the top 5 are German heavy metal bands. So I'm just letting you guys know. I'm going to give you a hint of what's actually in there. But this is the first one. Gravedigger, obviously from Germany. One of my top 25 bands, favorite bands of all time. I could tell you, Symbol of Eternity, it really continued on the, you know, basically of them writing about the Templars, and which they have done from time to time. Obviously, Knights of the Cross in 1998 was the big album for that, and Symbol of Eternity sort of continues that. And I love this album. You know, to be honest with you, I was not anticipating Gravedigger's new album to probably be in my top 5, maybe top 10. Usually Gravedigger's in the top 10. Sometimes they crack the top 5 once in a while, but this year in Fields of Blood back in 2020 also cracked my top 5, if I remember correctly. And this album is great. So Symbol of Eternity by Gravedigger. I'm excited. I was excited when it came out. Man, I love the album. I really do. And don't forget to check out the interview with myself and Chris Boltendahl and my review initially for the album. But it is a top 5 album for the Metal Command Show. The next album, number 4 on the list, this should not surprise anybody, but it is Star One with Revel in Time. Ian Lukasin, my favorite musician of all time, really put out a great record. And not only did he put out a great album, but the other thing that he really did a great job of is the fact that he put a second CD out with other vocalists doing the same songs. So there's 2 CDs. So basically, you have each song. There is a version with a different vocalist. There's 2 versions of each song. Each one is a different vocalist. Really cool stuff. This Star One album was really cool, and it had been a long time since Ian really put out a Star One release, and I really like this thing. Definitely number 4 on my list. It is phenomenal, as always, and I cannot wait for the next Ayreon release and or project that Ian Lukasin has in mind. But definitely just phenomenal musician, and of course he got some of the best vocalists that have sang on albums in the past are on this one, and he's got a few new people on there as well. So Revel in Time by Star One, definitely number 4 on the list. Number 3 on the list, one of my favorite bands in say the last 10 to 15 years, Soilwork, Overgiven Hetten. And I became a fan of Soilwork when I first heard A Predator's Portrait. That was an album still amongst probably my top 5 albums they have ever put out. Natural Born Chaos, of course, was a great album. And then they had that kind of dip in the middle where some of the albums were okay, some weren't. But then ever since 2010 came about, when A Panic Broadcast came out, they really found themselves. And I've loved every album since then. In fact, A Living Infinite was actually number 1 on my list for I believe it was 2011. It was number 1, I believe number 1 on my list the year it came out. And folks, I got to tell you flat out, this album is great. A lot of diversity to it. It's got some real heavy stuff on it. It has some not so heavy stuff on it. But Soilwork continues to put out great material. I definitely liked it better than the previous album, Vergleiten, and it is a phenomenal record. It deserves to be in the top 5 because I listened to this quite a bit, probably more so than most of the albums on this list. Now, the second album number 2, this is the highest place this band has ever had a record or ever had an album on my list. I think they've been in the top 5 for one album, but number 2 is the highest ranking they have ever received, and it's deservedly so. The album was great. I'm talking about Kreator with Hate Uber Allies. I think that's what it's called, Hate Uber Allies. I can't pronounce the name, but whatever the case may be, it is number 2 on the list. Just thrash metal done right. And there's some kind of different elements on this record as well. But folks, I love Kreator. The early stuff is okay, but when they started, as the 2000s came about, they really started putting out better and better albums. Phantom Antichrist is great. I mean, pretty much the last 4 or 5 albums they have put out have been amongst some of the best thrash metal releases ever. And again, as I talked about previously with other bands, a lot of these old school thrash metal bands are really putting out just great material, some of the best they've ever done. Kreator is right up there. It gets the number 2 spot. It is in the top 5, but now we get to the coveted number 1 album of the year. And I'm just so excited about this. This band has won the award once. They've always pretty much, for the most part, have been in the top 5 the entire time I've been doing my show. This band came on my show. In fact, the singer of this band came on my show the first year it aired, and we've talked off and on ever since then. And he is one of my favorite people to ever bring on the Metal Command Show. But Album of the Year, this award goes to Blind Guardian. Blind Guardian, number 1 album of the year for me. This is the box set. This box set's also really cool because it has a board game in it, aside from all the other cool stuff that comes with it. But Blind Guardian and the album The God Machine is number 1 album of the year for the Metal Command Show. Blind Guardian, The God Machine. So here's what I have to say, folks. With Blind Guardian, they've put out a lot of more progressive stuff lately as opposed to the early stuff, which was more straight ahead power metal. This is a perfect combination of both. And I have to be honest, when I first listened to it, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what am I listening to? Because I was expecting this more progressive sounding type of power metal that they've been doing for quite a while. Now, the other album that won the award before on the show was A Night at the Opera, which, by the way, as I told Andre Olbrich back in 2015 when they came and played here in Cleveland, the remix of that album was phenomenal, and it was my favorite of all of the remixed albums they put out, and Night at the Opera won that award. Every other album they've ever put out since, or throughout their career, was a top 5 album. And if I'd started the list before 1998, they probably would have won it in 1990, 92, and in 95, obviously with Imaginations from the Other Side in 95, and then Somewhere Far Beyond, and of course Tales from the Twilight World. All of those albums would definitely have won the number 1 spot if I was doing a list back then, and if I was into the band back then. But right now, this album right here, The God Machine, Blind Guardian, congratulations. Hansi Kirsch, one of the greatest people I've ever spoken to, one of my favorite musicians ever, definitely one of my favorite singers in heavy metal. He's done a phenomenal job as a writer and composer. Andre Olbrich, again, one of my favorite guitar players in metal. I love this band. They are a top 25 band for me all time as well. As I said earlier about Gravedigger being top 25, Blind Guardian is as well. And I have to say, congratulations to Hansi, Andre, and everybody else in Blind Guardian or associated with them. You guys have won the Album of the Year award for the Metal Command radio show. I'm excited. I'm really excited about the fact that this won because I love this record. In fact, what's really cool is it has a different track listing for the box. The box set's really cool. There's a different track listing in here. There is a board game in here. There's a lot of cool goodies in this box set, and I can tell you it's one of the best box sets I've ever seen a record label or a band put together. So with that said, that ends it. This is the end of the top albums of the year countdown. Hansi Kirsch and Company, congratulations to you guys. You guys put out a phenomenal record. You are number 1 on the Metal Command Show for 2022. It is well deserved. It is well earned. And I wish you the best of luck in 2023. I'm sure you guys are going to go out live, kick some ass, and I can't wait to have these guys on my show again, but they definitely deserve this number 1 spot. So with that being said, thanks for watching, everybody. leave a comment. Let me know what your top 5 albums of the year are. Let me know what you think of the albums that I posted. Again, it's all subjective. Everybody's got a different opinion. Music is subjective. It's an art form. But this is my opinion, obviously, and I love this new album. I love Blind Guardian to begin with. Obviously, as you've seen, I have the shirt on, but I have to say I absolutely love this new album. So with that being said, everybody have a good one. I will see you all next year.